Have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt like you didn't belong? Have you ever doubted yourself before you even began? Here's the truth. Confidence isn't something you're born with, it's something you build. The people you admire aren't fearless, they've simply learned to act despite fear. Today, you're going to discover 7 powerful steps that can change the way you see yourself. Because the moment you stop waiting to feel confident and start choosing courageous action, your entire life begins to change. Confidence is often misunderstood. Many people believe it appears after success, recognition, or achievement. They tell themselves, once I get the promotion, then I'll be confident. Once I lose the weight, then I'll believe in myself. Once people start noticing my work, then I'll finally feel worthy. But confidence doesn't work that way. If your belief in yourself depends on circumstances, then every setback will shake your foundation. Real confidence begins much deeper. It begins with your identity. How you see yourself when nobody is watching, when nobody is applauding, and when there is no guarantee that your efforts will succeed. Think about the strongest people you've ever met. Chances are, they weren't confident because everything always went their way. They were confident because they knew what they stood for. Their sense of self wasn't built on winning every battle. It was built on understanding their values, their purpose, and the kind of person they wanted to become. When you know who you are, you stop letting temporary situations define your permanent identity. Too often, we confuse what we do with who we are. We say, I failed, so I'm a failure. I made a mistake, so I'm not good enough. But those statements aren't facts. They are stories we tell ourselves. A failed presentation doesn't make you an incapable speaker. A rejected application doesn't mean you lack potential. A difficult season doesn't mean you have no future. Events happen, but they don't determine your identity unless you allow them to. The most important conversation you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. Every morning, you wake up with a choice. You can define yourself by yesterday's disappointments, or you can define yourself by the values you choose to live today. Maybe yesterday wasn't your best day. Maybe you made mistakes. Maybe you felt invisible. But none of those things erase your ability to grow, learn, and contribute. Your identity isn't fixed. It is shaped by the decisions you make consistently, not by isolated moments of success or failure. One of the greatest traps people fall into is seeking confidence through external validation. They constantly look for approval from friends, coworkers, family members, or strangers online. Every compliment lifts them up, and every criticism tears them down. Living this way is exhausting because you're handing other people control over how you feel about yourself. The opinions of others will always change. Some people will believe in you, and others won't. If your confidence depends on everyone agreeing with you, you'll spend your life chasing something you can never fully control. Instead, ask yourself a different question. Rather than asking, do people believe in me? Ask, am I becoming the person I respect? That question changes everything. It shifts your focus away from impressing others and toward building character. Character lasts longer than popularity. Integrity lasts longer than applause. When your actions align with your values, confidence begins to grow naturally because you know you're living honestly. Imagine a tree standing through a storm. The reason it survives isn't because the wind is gentle. It's because its roots run deep. Confidence works the same way. Life will bring criticism, setbacks, unexpected challenges, and moments of uncertainty. Those are the storms. If your roots are planted in achievements alone, the storm can easily knock you over. But if your roots are planted in purpose, resilience, and self-respect, you'll bend without breaking. Building identity also requires accepting that growth is a lifelong journey. You don't have to know everything today. You don't have to be perfect to deserve confidence. In fact, the people who continue learning are often the most confident because they aren't afraid to admit what they don't know. They understand that asking questions doesn't make them weak. It makes them stronger. Confidence isn't pretending to have all the answers. It's trusting that you can figure things out as you move forward. Remember that every choice you make is casting a vote for the person you're becoming. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, speak honestly, act with kindness, or face a fear instead of avoiding it, you're strengthening your identity. Those small moments may seem insignificant, but over time, they shape your character. And character is where lasting confidence is born. So don't wait for success to tell you that you're enough. Don't wait for someone else's approval before believing in your potential. Decide today who you want to be and let your daily actions reflect that decision. Achievements may come and go. Recognition may rise and fall. But when your confidence is rooted in your identity, no temporary setback can take away what truly matters. That's the kind of confidence that lasts, and it's available to anyone willing to build it from the inside out. The words you speak to yourself have incredible power. Long before anyone else believes in you or doubts you, there is already a conversation happening inside your own mind. That inner voice quietly influences every decision you make, every opportunity you pursue, and every challenge you either face or avoid. Most people don't realize that confidence is shaped less by what others say about them and more by what they repeatedly say to themselves. If your inner dialogue is filled with criticism, fear, and negativity, even the greatest opportunities can feel impossible. But when you learn to replace self-doubt with constructive, encouraging self-talk, you begin to unlock a level of confidence that no outside opinion can take away. Consider how you speak to yourself after making a mistake. Many people immediately jump to harsh conclusions. They think, I'm not smart enough, I always mess things up, or I'll never be good at this. Those thoughts may seem harmless because they stay inside your mind, but over time they become beliefs. And beliefs shape behavior. If you believe you're destined to fail, you'll hesitate before taking risks. You'll avoid challenges because you've already convinced yourself of the outcome. Eventually, your actions begin to match the story you've been telling yourself. Now, imagine approaching the same situation differently. Instead of saying, I failed, so I'm a failure, you tell yourself, that didn't go the way I hoped, but I learned something valuable. Instead of thinking, I'm terrible at this, you say, I'm still developing this skill. Notice the difference. The facts haven't changed. The mistake still happened. But your interpretation has changed completely. One mindset traps you in fear. The other opens the door to growth. Your brain is constantly listening to the words you repeat. It doesn't always distinguish between truth and repetition. That's why limiting beliefs can become deeply rooted if they're reinforced day after day. If every morning begins with thoughts like, I'm not good enough, nobody cares what I think, or someone else can do it better, those ideas gradually become part of your identity. The good news is that the same process works in your favor when you intentionally choose healthier, more empowering thoughts. This doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect or ignoring real challenges. Confidence isn't built by denying reality. It's built by responding to reality with hope instead of helplessness. Positive self-talk is not about empty slogans or unrealistic optimism. It's about speaking to yourself with the same honesty, patience, and encouragement that you would offer to someone you genuinely care about. Think about a close friend who is struggling. If they made one mistake, would you tell them they're worthless? Would you insist they'll never succeed? Probably not. You would remind them of their strengths. You would encourage them to keep going. You would help them see possibilities they can't currently see. Yet many people refuse to extend that same kindness to themselves. They become their own harshest critic instead of their strongest supporter. Changing your inner dialogue begins with awareness. You can't replace thoughts you don't notice. Start paying attention to the automatic messages running through your mind. When fear appears before a presentation, an interview, or an important conversation, ask yourself, is this thought helping me move forward, or is it holding me back? Simply recognizing negative thinking creates the opportunity to choose a different response. Another powerful habit is focusing on evidence instead of assumptions. Self-doubt often speaks in absolutes. It says you always fail or you'll never be successful. But those statements rarely reflect reality. Think about the times you've solved difficult problems, overcome setbacks, or learned new skills. Those experiences are evidence that you are capable of growth. Confidence increases when you remind yourself of what you've already overcome instead of only focusing on what still scares you. It's also important to understand that courage often comes before confidence. Many people wait until they feel completely confident before taking action. But confidence usually grows after you act, not before. Encourage yourself with thoughts like, I may not know everything, but I can learn. I don't need to be perfect to begin. One step forward is enough for today. These simple shifts reduce fear and create momentum. Your environment also influences your self-talk. The books you read, the people you spend time with, the content you consume, and the conversations you engage in all shape the language inside your mind. Choose influences that remind you of your potential rather than constantly feeding your insecurities. Fill your thoughts with ideas that challenge you to grow, not messages that convince you to settle. Every day, you have the opportunity to strengthen your confidence through the words you choose. Your inner voice can either become the obstacle standing in your way or the guide that helps you move forward despite uncertainty. The choice belongs to you. Replace criticism with curiosity. Replace fear with possibility. Replace I can't with I'm learning. Over time, these small changes won't just improve the way you think. They'll transform the way you live. The strongest confidence isn't created by never hearing the voice of doubt. It's created by learning not to let that voice have the final word. One of the biggest myths about confidence is that it arrives before action. Many people believe they must first feel fearless, capable, and completely prepared before taking the first step toward a goal. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect mindset, or the perfect opportunity. But that moment rarely comes. Confidence is not the starting point of success. It is the result of consistent action. Every confident person you admire once stood exactly where you are now, uncertain and questioning themselves. The difference is they chose to move forward despite those feelings. They understood that confidence is built through doing, not through waiting. Think about learning to ride a bicycle. No one becomes confident by reading about balance or watching someone else ride. Confidence grows only after getting on the bike, wobbling a few times, falling occasionally, and trying again. Every attempt teaches your brain something new. Every small improvement strengthens your belief that you are capable. Life works the same way. Whether you're starting a business, speaking in public, applying for a new job, or chasing a personal dream, confidence comes from experience, and experience comes from action. Many people underestimate the power of small actions because they are focused on dramatic results. They believe that only huge achievements matter. But lasting confidence is rarely built through one life-changing event. Instead, it grows quietly through hundreds of small victories that most people never notice. Waking up when you promised yourself you would. Finishing a workout even when you don't feel motivated. Reading a few pages of a book each day. Speaking up once during a meeting. Making one difficult phone call you've been avoiding. These actions may seem insignificant on their own, but together they create a powerful message in your mind. I can trust myself. That trust is incredibly important because confidence is deeply connected to self-trust. When you repeatedly break promises to yourself, your mind begins to question your commitment. You say you'll start tomorrow, but tomorrow becomes next week. You promise to learn a new skill, but distractions take over. Gradually, your confidence weakens. Not because you're incapable, but because your actions don't match your intentions. On the other hand, every time you keep a promise to yourself, no matter how small, you strengthen your belief in your own reliability. Momentum is another powerful force that comes from small actions. Imagine pushing a heavy boulder. The first push requires tremendous effort, and it may not seem like anything is happening. But if you keep pushing, the boulder eventually begins to move. Once it's moving, maintaining that momentum becomes much easier. Confidence follows the same pattern. The hardest part is often beginning. Once you take that first step, the second becomes easier, then the third, and before long you're doing things that once felt impossible. Fear often tries to convince you that you're not ready. It whispers that you need more knowledge, more experience, more talent, or better timing. While preparation certainly matters, there comes a point where learning must give way to doing. Some of life's greatest lessons can only be learned through experience. You don't become a confident communicator by endlessly studying communication. You become confident by having conversations. You don't become a confident leader by waiting until you know everything. You become one by accepting responsibility, making decisions, and learning from the outcomes. It's also important to remember that progress matters more than perfection. Too many people refuse to act because they fear making mistakes. They want every step to be flawless. But perfection is an impossible standard. If you wait until you can guarantee success, you'll spend your life standing still. Growth belongs to those who are willing to look imperfect while learning. Every expert was once a beginner. Every successful person once made mistakes that taught them valuable lessons. Confidence isn't the absence of mistakes, it's the willingness to continue despite them. Celebrate your small wins along the way. Our minds naturally focus on what still needs improvement. often overlooking how far we've already come. Take time to recognize your progress. Maybe you spoke with more confidence today than you did last month. Maybe you handled criticism better than before. Maybe you completed a task you once thought was beyond your ability. These victories deserve recognition because they remind you that growth is happening, even if it's slower than you'd like. Another important truth is that action often changes emotions. People assume they need motivation before acting, but many times motivation appears after taking the first step. You may not feel excited before exercising, but once you begin, your energy increases. You may feel nervous before giving a presentation, but after speaking for a few minutes, your confidence grows. Feelings are often followers, not leaders. Action leads and emotions catch up. So stop waiting for confidence to magically appear. Create it through action. Start with one small step today, then another tomorrow. Keep the promises you make to yourself. Allow yourself to be a beginner. Learn from every experience, celebrate every improvement, and trust that each action is shaping the person you're becoming. Remember, confidence isn't built overnight. It's built one decision, one habit, and one courageous step at a time. The life you want isn't waiting for the moment you feel fearless. It's waiting for the moment you decide to begin. Comparison is one of the fastest ways to lose confidence because it shifts your attention away from your own growth and places it on someone else's journey. In today's world, it's easier than ever to compare yourself with others. Every day you're surrounded by images of successful careers, perfect relationships, impressive achievements, luxurious lifestyles, and people who seem to have everything figured out. The problem is that you're often comparing your behind-the-scenes reality to someone else's carefully edited highlight reel. When you do that, confidence slowly begins to disappear because no matter how much progress you make, there will always be someone who appears to be further ahead. The truth is, every person is living a story you cannot fully see. You see the promotion, but you don't see the years of rejection that came before it. You see the successful business, but you don't see the sleepless nights, financial struggles, and countless failures that built it. You see the confident speaker on stage, but you don't see the years they spent battling self-doubt before they became comfortable in front of an audience. Every success has a hidden history, but comparison ignores the process and focuses only on the outcome. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing that someone else's success somehow reduces their own chances of succeeding. They think that if another person is winning, there is less opportunity left for them. But success is not a limited resource. Someone else's achievement is not evidence of your failure. In fact, it can become proof that success is possible. Instead of allowing comparison to create jealousy, allow it to create inspiration. Let other people's accomplishments remind you of what can be achieved through persistence and dedication. Confidence grows when you stop asking, "Am I better than someone else?" and start asking, "Am I becoming better than I was yesterday?" That simple shift changes your entire perspective. Your greatest competition is not the person sitting next to you. It is the version of yourself that settles for less than your potential. Every day offers an opportunity to improve your mindset, strengthen your habits, expand your knowledge, and take another step toward your goals. When your focus stays on personal growth, comparison loses its power. Imagine two people climbing different mountains. One keeps looking across at the other mountain, wondering why the other climber seems higher. While distracted, they stop paying attention to their own path and begin losing momentum. The second climber keeps their eyes on the trail ahead, focusing on one step at a time. Eventually, they reach the summit, not because their mountain was easier, but because they refused to be distracted. Life works in much the same way. Every person has a different starting point, different challenges, different strengths, and different opportunities. Comparing journeys that are completely different will never give you an accurate picture of your own progress. Social media has made this challenge even greater. People naturally share their happiest moments, biggest achievements, and greatest victories. Rarely do they post the moments of loneliness, disappointment, fear, or uncertainty that everyone experiences. If you spend too much time measuring your life against those carefully selected moments, you'll begin believing that everyone else is living a perfect life while you're falling behind. But perfection is an illusion. Every person faces struggles, even if those struggles remain invisible to others. Another danger of comparison is that it causes you to ignore your own unique gifts. Every individual has talents, experiences, and perspectives that no one else can duplicate. The world doesn't need another copy of someone else. It needs the unique contribution that only you can make. When you spend your energy trying to imitate others, you often neglect the strengths that make you valuable. Confidence grows when you discover your own abilities and develop them instead of constantly wishing you possessed someone else's. Gratitude is one of the most effective ways to overcome comparison. When you focus on what you already have, your mindset shifts from scarcity to abundance. Instead of constantly noticing what's missing, you begin recognizing your progress, your opportunities, your relationships, and your personal growth. Gratitude doesn't mean ignoring your ambitions. It simply means appreciating today's blessings while continuing to work toward tomorrow's goals. It's also important to remember that everyone's timeline is different. Some people achieve success early in life. Others discover their purpose much later. Some face obstacles that delay their progress. Others move forward quickly because of opportunities you may never see. Comparing timelines only creates unnecessary frustration. Your journey is unfolding according to your own experiences, choices, and lessons. Trust that meaningful growth often takes time. Celebrate the victories of others without questioning your own worth. Learn from people who inspire you instead of competing with them. Ask what habits, attitudes, and decisions help them succeed, then apply those lessons to your own life in a way that fits your values and goals. Inspiration will always move you further than jealousy ever could. At the end of each day, ask yourself one simple question. Did I become a little better than I was yesterday? If the answer is yes, then you're moving in the right direction. Confidence isn't built by proving you're better than everyone else. It's built by consistently becoming a stronger, wiser, kinder, and more capable version of yourself. Stop measuring your progress against someone else's path. Focus on your own journey, embrace your unique strengths, and keep taking one step forward. The only person you truly need to outperform is the person you were yesterday. That is where lasting confidence is found. Failure is something most people spend their lives trying to avoid. They fear making mistakes, being rejected, looking foolish, or falling short of their own expectations. Because of that fear, many never take the risks that could completely transform their lives. They stay inside their comfort zone, believing that avoiding failure is the safest path. But in reality, avoiding failure often means avoiding growth. Every meaningful achievement requires stepping into uncertainty, and uncertainty always carries the possibility of failure. The people who develop lasting confidence are not those who never fail. They are the ones who learn how to respond when failure inevitably happens. Think about a child learning to walk. No one expects that child to stand up once and never fall again. Falling is accepted as part of the learning process. Every stumble strengthens balance, coordination, and determination. Parents don't criticize the child for falling. They encourage them to get back up and try again. Somewhere along the journey into adulthood, many people forget this lesson. They begin treating mistakes as proof that they are incapable rather than recognizing them as evidence that they are learning something new. One failure does not define your future. It simply reveals that one particular approach did not work. History is filled with people who experienced rejection after rejection before achieving success. Inventors created countless prototypes before discovering the right solution. Athletes lost important competitions before becoming champions. Entrepreneurs watched businesses collapse before building companies that changed industries. Their confidence didn't come from avoiding failure. It came from surviving it, learning from it, and refusing to let it become the final chapter of their story. The way you interpret failure matters far more than the failure itself. Two people can experience the exact same setback and walk away with completely different futures. One person says, "This proves I'm not good enough," and gives up. The other says, "This experience taught me what I need to improve," and keeps moving forward. The event is the same, but the mindset is completely different. One sees failure as a verdict. The other sees it as valuable feedback. Failure is often one of life's greatest teachers because it exposes weaknesses that success can easily hide. When everything is going well, we rarely stop to examine our habits, strategies, or assumptions. But when something doesn't work, we're forced to reflect. We ask better questions. We look for better solutions. We become more creative, more disciplined, and more resilient. The lessons learned through struggle are often remembered far longer than the lessons learned through easy victories. Confidence grows every time you prove to yourself that you can recover. Life will not always go according to plan. There will be interviews you don't pass, opportunities you don't receive, relationships that don't last, and goals that take longer than expected. Those moments can either convince you to quit or prepare you for something greater. Resilience is built not by avoiding difficult seasons, but by walking through them with courage and determination. One reason failure feels so painful is because many people attach their identity to their performance. If they succeed, they believe they have value. If they fail, they question their worth. But your value as a person is not determined by one exam, one business decision, one presentation, or one setback. You are more than your latest result. Separating your identity from your outcomes allows you to learn objectively instead of reacting emotionally. Another important lesson is that fear of failure is often worse than failure itself. Before taking action, your imagination creates worst-case scenarios. You picture embarrassment, criticism, disappointment, and regret. But once you actually face the challenge, you often discover that failure is survivable. You adapt. You recover. You become stronger than you expected. Every challenge you overcome reminds you that you are capable of handling more than your fears once suggested. It's also important to recognize that perfection is not the goal. Progress is. If your standard is perfection, you'll constantly feel disappointed because no one performs flawlessly all the time. Instead, ask yourself after every setback, what did this experience teach me? That simple question transforms failure from an ending into a beginning. Every mistake becomes an investment in future success because it gives you knowledge you didn't have before. Surround yourself with people who understand this principle. The right mentors, friends, and leaders won't expect you to be perfect. They'll encourage you to learn, improve, and keep going. They'll remind you that every successful journey includes moments of doubt and disappointment. Having people who believe in your potential can help you maintain perspective when setbacks occur. Remember that courage is not the absence of failure. Courage is choosing to continue despite it. Every time you stand back up after being knocked down, you strengthen your confidence. Every lesson you apply makes you wiser. Every obstacle you overcome increases your resilience. The road to meaningful success is rarely straight. It is filled with unexpected turns, difficult seasons, and valuable lessons disguised as failures. So don't fear making mistakes. Fear staying in the same place because you were too afraid to try. Embrace failure as part of your growth, not the end of your journey. Let every setback refine your character, strengthen your determination, and deepen your confidence. One day, you'll look back and realize that the moments you once considered your greatest failures were actually the experiences that prepared you for your greatest successes. Confidence is not built by living a perfect life. It is built by discovering that no matter how many times you fall, you have the strength to rise again. No one builds confidence entirely alone. While confidence ultimately comes from within, the people you choose to surround yourself with have a tremendous influence on how you think, how you feel, and what you believe is possible. Human beings naturally absorb the attitudes, habits, and expectations of the people they spend the most time with. If you are constantly surrounded by negativity, criticism, and doubt, it becomes much harder to believe in yourself. On the other hand, when you spend time with people who encourage growth, challenge you to improve, and genuinely want to see you succeed, your confidence begins to grow in ways you may never have imagined. Think about the conversations you have every day. Are they filled with complaints, excuses, and reasons why nothing will ever change? Or are they filled with ideas, solutions, encouragement, and hope? The words you hear repeatedly shape the way you see the world. If everyone around you constantly focuses on limitations, you may eventually begin to believe that your own dreams are unrealistic. But if you're surrounded by people who see challenges as opportunities to learn and grow, you'll start approaching life with the same mindset. One of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is choosing relationships that bring out the best in you. These are the people who celebrate your victories without jealousy, support you during difficult seasons without judgment, and tell you the truth with kindness when you need to hear it. They don't simply tell you what you want to hear. They encourage you to become the person you're capable of becoming. They remind you of your strengths when you've forgotten them, and they challenge you to keep moving forward when fear tempts you to give up. This doesn't mean surrounding yourself only with people who agree with everything you say. In fact, Some of the most valuable relationships are those that respectfully challenge your thinking. Growth often begins when someone asks a difficult question, offers a new perspective, or encourages you to step outside your comfort zone. The right people don't make your life easier by lowering expectations. They help you become stronger by raising them. They believe you can accomplish more than you currently believe about yourself. At the same time, it's important to recognize relationships that consistently drain your confidence. Some people criticize every idea, dismiss every dream, and focus only on what's wrong. Others constantly compare, compete, or make you feel as though you'll never be good enough. Spending too much time in that environment can slowly weaken your belief in yourself. Negativity has a way of spreading if you're not careful. This doesn't mean you stop caring about people or treat them with disrespect. It simply means you become intentional about protecting your mindset and choosing healthy boundaries. Confidence also grows when you seek mentors who have already walked the path you're trying to follow. A mentor doesn't need to be someone famous. It could be a teacher, a coach, a family member, a manager, or a trusted friend who demonstrates integrity, wisdom, and resilience. Learning from people who have faced obstacles and overcome them reminds you that success is possible. Their experience can help you avoid unnecessary mistakes and encourage you during moments when you feel like giving up. It's equally important to become the kind of person who contributes positively to the lives of others. Encouragement is not something you should only receive. It is something you should also give. Celebrate the success of others. Offer support when someone is struggling. Share your knowledge generously. Listen with empathy. When you help build confidence in those around you, you often strengthen your own confidence as well. Positive relationships are built on mutual respect, trust, and genuine care. Another powerful truth is that your environment extends beyond the people you physically spend time with. The books you read, the podcasts you listen to, the videos you watch, and the information you consume every day all become part of your mental environment. If your mind is constantly filled with negativity, fear, and hopelessness, your confidence will suffer. But if you intentionally fill your mind with ideas that inspire growth, resilience, and purpose, you'll begin thinking differently. Your environment is constantly shaping your future, whether you realize it or not. Building meaningful relationships also requires vulnerability. Confidence doesn't mean pretending you have everything figured out. It means being willing to ask for help when you need it, admit when you've made mistakes, and learn from people who know more than you. Some people believe asking for guidance is a sign of weakness, but the opposite is true. The strongest individuals understand that growth accelerates when they remain teachable. Confidence and humility are not opposites. They work together. Remember that every relationship either adds energy to your life or takes energy away. Pay attention to how you feel after spending time with certain people. Do you leave feeling inspired, encouraged, and motivated to improve? Or do you leave feeling discouraged, anxious, and full of self-doubt? Those feelings often reveal whether a relationship is helping you grow or holding you back. At the end of the day, confidence flourishes in an environment where growth is encouraged, effort is respected, and potential is recognized. Choose to spend your time with people who believe in possibility, who challenge you to become better, and who remind you that setbacks do not define your future. At the same time, strive to be that kind of person for others. Build relationships based on trust, encouragement, and shared growth. When you create an environment that supports your best self, confidence no longer feels like something you have to chase. It becomes a natural result of the people, habits, and influences you intentionally choose every single day.